And in this video, we're going to talk about creating some simple scripts in Linux. Now, the purpose for creating scripts in Linux is really automation. Basically, what you type on the command line. So, for instance, if you're creating a user, you create the user, and then you create the password, and then you create security groups, and then you join the users to those security groups. All of those steps are just a bunch of Linux commands. What we can do with scripts is we can actually compress all of that information into one script in order to simplify the entire process. Now we're going to start off with some simple ones and go from there. So we've got our Linux machine here. Let's go ahead and just open up a terminal. So I just clicked on activities, I start typing terminal, hit enter, and it opens up to our terminal window here. Make it a little larger for us to see. And what we can do is, well, let's start off with a simple command. This command that we're going to use here is called echo. And basically everything you type into echo gets written back out to the screen. So I wrote echo hello there, and it responded back hello there. So with that, we're going to basically do that in order to create our very first bash script. So we're going to go ahead into Vi, and we're going to edit a file called helloworld.sh. So vi helloworld.sh, enter. We get into the new file, we hit I to go into insert mode. The very first thing we need to type in when we get into a bash script, or a script that we want to be a bash script, is enter what's called the shebang. The shebang is basically $, or exclamation mark, /bin/bash. What happens is when you run a script in bash or in Linux, it looks at this first line for this, and it says, what program should I open this file with? And in this case, it's bin bash. If this was a Python script, it would be like bin python, or some other scripting language. It would be, like /bin/perl or something along those lines. All right. So now that we have our shebang, basically we just type in echo hello world. And that's all there is to it. We hit escape, get out of insert mode, :WQ for write and quit. And now if we look at the properties of our file here, well, there's just one step left. When we look at the permissions, we see that the user, just in case, has, well, read and write permissions. The group has read and write permissions, and then everybody else has simply read permissions. The problem with that is, well, this is a script. We need execute permissions. So we need to go ahead and add execute permissions to the hello world script. We could add these in individually to the user, to the group, and to the other, or just simply chmod +x will apply it to everybody. And hello world.sh. Check the permissions again. We can see, yes, we now have execute permissions for user, for group, and for everybody else. And bash is really helpful. It goes ahead and just changes the color for us so we can see that it is now executable. So let's go ahead and run that. In order to run it, we have to say where the script is. Well, the script is in the current directory. So / in order to identify the current directory, helloworld.sh, hit enter, and it responds back with very simple hello world. Great. Well, there's a couple of things we can do before we move on. Basically, what I want to do is I want to re-edit this file, and I want to add in some comments. Pretty much what it comes down to is I know how this works today. I probably know how it will work next week, but a month from now, 6 months from now, I don't know if I wrote that script, if I got it from somewhere else, if I don't know what it does. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this file and just put in some comments. So went back into Vi, opened up the file in Vi. Going to go ahead and insert into insert mode, or hit I to go into insert mode. And now I want to add in a comment. The character to add a comment is the pound sign. I know there's a pound sign up above there in the shebang, but the pound sign is generally the comment character. And so I'm just going to write in a simple comment here. Created by Ed on 7/15/19. And then a description, simply outputs hello world. And then that's it. We just go ahead and escape that, :WQ. We go ahead and run it. We see that there's absolutely no change in the program whatsoever. The pound sign at the beginning of the line just simply means this is a comment. Ignore everything else that's after here. This is simply so that when I look at this in 6 months, I know exactly how to get back into it, or to what it's supposed to be. All right. Well, let's do a little bit more. Let's actually change that, and let's create using variables. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually create a new file. I'm going to call it hellovar.sh, since we're going to be using variables. Now, the very first thing I need to do in here is I need to add in the shebang. This isn't strictly necessary for what we're doing here, but it's a good practice to get into. Same with the comments. And outputs hello world using a variable. Now the first question is, what is a variable? Well, a variable, assign variable. A variable essentially is a box. I can have a box somewhere. What's in the box? Well, it's whatever I put into the box. So once I put something in the box, maybe there's a cat in the box. What do I do if I don't want the cat in the box, but I want the dog in the box? Well, I take the cat out, I put the dog in. It's fairly simple when you're talking about a box, and that's ultimately what a variable is. What is a variable? It's a container. It's something that you can put something else into and then reference the box or the variable at a later day. So we're going to assign a variable. We're going to go against all best practices of making the variable having a well-descriptive name or anything like that. We're just going to call it var. And we're going to say var equals hello world. Now, a couple of things to note here. First off, hello world is what's called a string. It has text. And because it's a string, we have to put quotes around it. The first quote says, this is where the string begins. The second quote says, this is where the string ends. So we have to have both of them. The other thing to note is that between var and hello world, there are no spaces around the equal sign. Most software programmers or scripters will look at this and say, well, that's ugly. That should actually be var space equals space hello world. And in many programming languages, that's how the way you do it. That's exactly what you would do. It just looks better. Under Bash, it doesn't work. There has to be without spaces. Okay, so we now at this point have a variable called var. Var is the box. It's holding the string hello world. Now we just want to print out, print out the variable. So echo $var. And that's it. That's how we use a variable. When we assign it, we don't use a $. When we reference it, we use the $sign in front of it. Otherwise, it's going to think I'm just talking about the three letters V, A, and R. Well, let's go ahead and save that. So escape : WQ. Before we go any further, we have to make it executable. So just like we did up here with hello world, we need to do a chmod +x hello var. Enter. And then /hello var. And this should ultimately be exactly the same as what we had before. It's just simply hello world. About the only real difference between the two is when we did hello world, we actually said just echo out hello world. And here we're using a variable. Variables are great. They make life a whole lot easier in the future. In fact, let's go ahead and make that a little bit more descriptive. Let's edit that file one more time. Clear that screen. Let's edit our hello var and let's add in a couple more variables. So going into insert mode, adding some more comments here, and I'm just going to call this add more variables. And there's a couple of variables we want to create here. Let's create one called time now. And I want to assign to time now the current date. So $, parenthesis date, parenthesis quote. Basically what this is doing, if you remember your math programming class, for instance, the 2 + 3 times 4, if you remember your math, well, basically there's an order of operations. You multiply before you add. Therefore, this would be 3 times 4 is 12 plus 2, so the answer would be 14. However, if I use parentheses, then the parentheses mean do this first. So 2 + 3 is operated first, so that's 5 times 4, therefore the answer would be 20. Well, that's how it works in math, and that's kind of how the parentheses work here. This is saying go ahead and run this command. There's a command called date. Go ahead and run that command, and then treat it as if it's a variable and assign that to time now. Let me delete all that silly math. So we're assigning the current date and time to time now, and then we will also create another variable called computer name, and we will assign that to the host name command. All right, so we start off with hello world. We assign hello world. We then print it out. We print out hello world. We then assign a couple more variables. So let's go ahead and print those out. Comment as we go so we know exactly what we're doing later on. So echo current date and time is $now. And echo computer name is $computer name. So basically we're echoing out this entire string plus the variable, which is of a string type. It's a name. So let's go ahead and save that. And then when we execute it, we should see hello world, the current date and time, and the computer name. Oh, I'm missing something there. I must have a typo. It's always a typo. Oh, there we go. It's not $now. It is $time now. I bet you guys saw that. You saw that error before it even happened. There we go. And just as out of curiosity, so we got the date here. We actually called the command date. I can again just echo that out or run that from the command line. if I just type date, it gives me the date. And that's exactly what we saw right there. Same thing with the computer. In the script, we called host name. And it just calls out the host name. Now the host name is really boring in this case because, well, that's a really boring host name. But we can start seeing how we're able to chain up these commands that we're running to start being useful. Well, let's do one more and then I have a challenge for you. So let's create another script. Let's call it hello input.sh. Again, start off with the shebang and a comment. And a description. Get input from user, and echo out. All right, so what we need to do now is we need to read input. And in order to read input, there's another Linux command simply called read. So read -p, please enter your name. And I want that to go into a variable called name. And once I've read the input and I've saved that information into the name variable, let's go ahead and echo out string. So echo hello $name. So the name variable that we are assigning right there. Do you want to play a game? All right, now when we run this, what should happen is it should come in here and it should get to this read command and it should report out, please enter your name, and then we type in our name. When we're done, it will say, for instance, if I type my name Ed, it should say, hello Ed, do you want to play a game? Well, let's save that, mark it as executable, and run it. chmod +x hello input, and then let's go ahead and run it. So please enter your name. Well, my name is Ed. And then it goes ahead and responds back, hello, do you want to play a game? So that is how we get most of this. Let's do a challenge exercise as I go ahead and open up a text editor here. There we go. So create a script. 1, creates user. 2, 1, prompts for username. 2, creates the user. 3, sets password to password 01. And then 4, adds user to marketing group. There you go. So that should all be doable. Like I said, in the prior videos, we had gone ahead and created users. We've created password, and we have added them to the different security groups. So we should be able to simply create a script that uses the read command that we just saw in order to get the username. It then would create a user using that username and set a password. So there's the read command, add user command, password command, and then ch group in order to add them into the marketing group. set that to run. Set that to executable. You'll have to run it as root. If you really want to, you can see about running set UID in order to set the user ID to root and allowing it to run automatically as them.